you ever ridden on a steamboat that had a paddle wheel that drove the motor to keep it going up or down the river? You ever been on one of those? Have you ever seen one? They're not very common today because nobody uses paddle wheel steamboats. Everybody uses gasoline or diesel motors or that sort of thing to keep their motor going. Well, Ralph lived in a town many years ago that was on a big river, and the way they traveled from one city to another was to go to the port office where they paid for a ticket, and then they got on the steamboat and went to the next town or wherever it was that they had paid for to go. And it was very interesting to watch the steamboats go up and down the river. In the town he lived in, there were two piers or wharves where people could walk out on the river and see what was happening. And one of them was on the top side, the north side of town, the other one was on the south side of town. This particular day, Ralph went walking out on the pier, on the wharf, on the south side of town. And he walked out a ways on the wharf in the town, and there was old Sam, and he was fishing. And Ralph thought that was sort of interesting to watch. So he walked up to old Sam, and he sat down by him, and he started to talk to old Sam. How many fish have you caught? Oh, not as many as sometimes. What kind of fish do you have? Do you like fishing? Do you do this often? Ralph was just full of questions. He had all sorts of questions for old Sam, and they struck up a friendship, and they started talking again. And Ralph sat there for quite a while, just listening and watching and asking questions and talking with old Sam. And he said, how often do you come to fish? And old Sam told him, well, every few days. And then old Sam started asking questions of Ralph. Ralph, he said, so what are you doing today on the wharf, on the pier? How's come you're here? And Ralph said, oh, he said, I'm going to catch a steamboat ride and I'm going to go to the next town. And old Sam said, Ralph, do you know that the steamboat doesn't stop at this pier? There are only two piers in our town. There's the one up at the north office on the wharf there, and then there's this one. But the steamboat never stops here. He said, if you want to get a ride to the next town, or several towns beyond that, you have to go up to the other pier. That's several miles away once you get on the road and go up and find the pier. And he said, furthermore, you not only have to go up to that pier, because that's the only one that the steamboat stops at to pick up passengers, but you would have to buy a ticket. Because if you want to ride on the steamboat, you have to pay the fare and pay for going to the next town or wherever it is you want to go. And Ralph said, oh, the steamboat will stop for me. He said, I don't think I have to go buy a ticket. Old Sam said, you just can't tell kids anything these days. He's going to miss out on his ride because he's in the wrong place. And I've lived here for years and years and years and years, and the steamboat never pulls in at this south pier. In fact, he told Ralph, he said, that's one of the reasons I fish here, is I don't want all the crowds around me bothering the fish and the paddle wheel going around like this and disturbing the fish. He said, I fish here because it's calm. There's no noise. There's no boats that come in. I'm by myself unless I'm talking to somebody like I am to you. He said, if you want to get there, you better go quick because it's pulling in right now. And it isn't going to be staying very long. At that pier, it'll drop off a few passengers, and then it'll pick up a few passengers who have tickets, and then it's coming right on down the river. But it won't be stopping here. Oh, again, Ralph said, it'll stop for me. I'll just flag it down. And they watched as the steamboat pulled out from the north pier of the city and started headed their direction. And Ralph reached into his pocket and he pulled out his handkerchief. It was a nice red one, sort of like this. He pulled it out, he opened it up, and he started to wave it at the steamboat. And he waved, and he waved, and he waved, and the steamboat seemed to be ignoring him. It looked like it was going right on past, and old Sam said, I told you it doesn't stop here. Waving a little handkerchief at that steamboat isn't going to get it to come over and pick you up. Furthermore, he said, do you have a ticket? And Ralph said, no, I didn't get a ticket. I'm just going to get a ride. And he waved and he waved and he waved and he waved. But nothing seemed to be happening. The steamboat looked like it was headed right straight past him. And then old Sam couldn't believe his eyes. It looked like the steamboat was turning a little bit their direction. Now he knew that the steamboat never stopped there, and he knew that Ralph didn't have a ticket. But Ralph was waving so enthusiastically, you know, here I am, can't you see me, come get me. And then, as old Sam watched, the steamboat actually started to turn in their direction. And it turned more and more and more. And Ralph kept waving his handkerchief, here I am, don't miss me. And the steamboat actually came up to the south pier where old Sam was fishing. And it pulled up at the end of the pier and it stopped. And a man got down and helped Ralph get on the boat. And Ralph looked back at old Sam. Old Sam's mouth was sort of hanging open. He'd never seen this happen before. And Ralph said to old Sam, I knew it was going to stop here. I know the captain. He's my dad. If you know the captain, really good things can happen. He didn't have to buy a ticket. His dad took him, put him on the boat, and they headed down the river along with all the other passengers. And Ralph took his nice red handkerchief and he just wadded it up and stuck it in his pocket. You know, girls, one of these days, Jesus is going to come our way. Who's the captain of your life? Do you know Jesus? Is he your friend? Does he listen when you pray to him? One of these days, he's going to come back and he's going to get us, those of us who know him and love him and follow him, and he's going to take us on a very exciting trip. Now, I don't think that trip's going to be downriver. I think it's going to be up to heaven. But I can't wait to go. How about you? Listen to what the the captain tells you. Do what the captain says. Live for the captain, because he's your father as well. Thank you for being so good. You can go back to your seats right now.